All right, well, let's get started. So I am Jen. This is my Instagram account. So you obviously know a little bit about me if you're on here from my end, but I'm a registered dietitian. I own Prana Nutrition, which is a nutrition counseling business. And I decided when I had a little bit more downtime now, as we do these days, to kind of do something a little different. I have a lot of friends and acquaintances that are doing really cool things, and Lisa is one of them, and decided that it's something that people should hear about and put in their metaphorical toolbox. So Lisa is a really good friend of mine from Tampa. She is here today to talk about breathing. She's a movement specialist, so we'll get into what that entails in a little bit. She will tell you a little bit about herself, and we'll just sort of make time for questions and chit chat,
right?
See where it goes. So thank you, Lisa, for coming on.
My pleasure. I am thrilled to be here with Jen. Jen's a friend. Jen's a colleague. Jen is also my dietitian, and we wrote a program together a couple years ago. Very holistic approach to eating. And when we were doing something live at the time, I said, Jen's the dietitian. I've been writing this program for 30 years. And Jen kind of looked at me. I'm like, okay, she's not even 30 years old, but she was the person I'm waiting for. So, you know, people throw the word holistic around, and people, holistic just means you're looking at the whole body, but people hear it and it sounds woo-woo to them, or they're like, oh, well, I only use alternative medicine. I'm like, well, we're complementary, right? You know, we're asking you to look at, medicine, Western medicine, and add different things to it. So, nobody's asking people to do anything that's completely out there. So I was thrilled to have an opportunity to get to know you, Jen, and then, work with you as well. So, I've been doing what I do for a long time. I really started from the physical side of it. So while I was going to the University of Connecticut to study athletic training, sports medicine, that was in the day where I was like that initial wave of aerobic instructors. That was before we were group fitness instructors. I predate different shoes for activities. In that initial wave of group fitness instructors, then the mid 80s became this initial wave of personal trainers. So I've been helping people move better, whether it's for fitness purposes or for sports purposes. You were very kind in the bio. Oh, she's been doing this for 20 plus years, and I went, oh, well, I really have. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and then when I like, it's a little closer to 40. Should I have been insulted or just thrilled that, I was like 40 years I've been doing this, when did that happen? But the point of all that is, what the heck is a movement specialist? And I was speaking to a group of psychotherapists recently, and they said, wait, why are you in the room while we're doing psychotherapy? Because I'm just better at reading body language than you are. Everybody has a body language, right? If I come in and ask for a raise and I'm doing this, I'm probably not going to get a raise. If a 14-year-old or 12-year-old girl walks in with her arms up and, maybe she's not feeling so great about herself. When a 45-year-old woman does the same thing, do we have to say, okay, she's still not getting over large breasts at age 8, or somebody beating her at home? You kind of have to start, right? We have to read the body language. And after years of watching people from an orthopedic standpoint, you learn something about them. I had a professor in college who said, oh, y'all like going to ball games? This is not about watching ball games. You're never really going to watch the game, because when there's a play happening there, you're still watching the guy who blew out his knee over there. And by the way, for every guy who blows out his knee or starts bleeding, there's someone in the stands who's going to pass out, and you're going to see all of that. And I thought, how do that? And those moments in life where I've caught things before they've happened, you know, I've literally caught people before they've fallen, or you see things that nobody else sees, and you're like, oh, I'm getting really good at this body language piece. So I look at movement now, whether it's sports or fitness, or you just want to be more productive in your kitchen, right? You just need to get out there and run around with the grandkids, whatever it is. How do we get you to do that better? And what are your limiting factors? And from that holistic approach, sometimes your limiting factors have nothing to do with your body limitations. They are emotional, right? They are all the things that we talk about in the holistic or wellness approach. You've got cognitive things that get in the way, simple beliefs. You've got emotional, you've got spiritual things that get in the way, right? So how do we decipher what your body's doing and know which approach to take?
Yeah, I had this whole sort of intro blurb planned before the last 2 minutes before we went live went haywire. And then all of that, of course, went out of my brain. But one thing I wanted to say about you before you so eloquently described yourself was that, please tell me more.
You like to talk.
Knowledge of the body just far exceeds anybody's that I've ever met, including my anatomy and physiology professors from school. So I have, and that's not meant to, you know, toot your horn or anything. It really is, you are very good at what you do. I have firsthand experience of you working on my body and in your breathwork classes. And a lot of people watching this now live or later on in the recording are probably wondering, well, what even is a breathwork class? You know, like, what does that mean? I think I'm breathing all the time, and you are, but you're probably not doing it right. And why is it important? So we talked a little bit earlier on today about stress, and obviously this is a very stressful time for everybody. I don't think there's anybody, you know, skirting through this just like, this is great, this is, you know, another day in paradise. But what types of stress beyond just the obvious stress are there? And tie that into breathing, if you would. Why is that so important that we learn how to breathe correctly?
Yeah, and if I get completely off track, bring me back.
Derail us.
So I think when people hear the word, my experience is when people hear the word stress, a couple of things, yeah, everybody's stressed out. Well, okay, right? Like, it doesn't negate the effect of the stress on your body just because everybody else is stretched out. Or another one of my least favorite lines is, well, somebody else has got it worse. You got to remember that somebody else has it worse. Well, I'm not talking about somebody else right now. I'm talking about you, right? Yeah. And what the effect on your body has. That's okay that the rest of the world is stressed out, but we need to tell you what you can do to help yourself first. Put on your own oxygen mask on before you try to fix the world. So is that kind of the stressors of the world. Armageddon would be, right? Like, that's a huge stress. If you think the end of the world is coming, okay, that's a big stress, but it's not what most of us are going through on any daily basis. So there's very much physical stress on your body. If you asked me to go out and run a marathon right now, even though I've done that before, that would be a stress that broke something in my body, right? That would be too much stress because I'm not trained. At other times, if you're trained for it, it's still a great physical stress, right? So, but you train for that. So if I'm a bricklayer, right now, there's all these essential workers. Well, I had some essential workers in the other day, and I said, because I just moved back into my place, and I said, you know, I don't begrudge you the work, but how is it that you're able to come in here and finish painting, like finish the work that didn't get done when I wasn't here? And they said, oh, well, we're essential workers. And I said, how much essential work are you doing? And the guy turned and he said, I have remodeled 6 bathrooms in one house. None of what I'm doing is essential right now. And I said, yeah, I don't begrudge you the work, but like, there's this stress involved. And so these people are over physically worked right now. Mm-hmm. That said, there is that intellectual piece of it. Well, wait a minute. Oh, you're thinking too much. Well, okay, but that's an intellectual stress. There's an emotional stress. I'm glad this man could come in and support his family. Is this the letter of the law? Am I doing the best that I can do? He said, yeah, I like coming here because you're like cleaning me in and cleaning me out, you know? So I feel good about it. Would rather come here because it's quiet. But, you know, there's this emotional toll of going in and people hollering at you and you're going, wait, I could be bringing diseases in here, people. So, and then there's what sometimes people like to leave out of the holistic approach is that spiritual stress, and you can call that a religious or whatever, but we've had huge issues in Florida because of what has happened in Tampa, and then what our governor's come out and said, can you tell people that you can't have mass meetings? Well, yes, we've told them that. Oh, governor said, except for church, you can go. Well, wait a minute, we just arrested somebody for doing it, now it's okay. So there's a lot of controversy over that. What is the best you can do spiritually? So, and you and I have talked about this before, there's all this different kind of stress, but let's look at what your body is designed for. From a movement person, I know that people talk about getting 10,000 steps in. We know your body is probably designed to get 20,000 steps in a day. It's designed to do a lot of movement in the course of the day. When it doesn't get that, it's stressful. Curling up in a chair, sitting at a desk is stressful orthopedically on your body. You know that your body is designed to get X amount of nutrition. So when I was coming up, everybody was on a 1,500 calorie day, no 12, no 1,000 calorie diet a day. Clinically impossible, right? To get in all the nutrients that you need in a 1,200 calorie day diet, right? That's how I remember it. Not gonna happen, right? So if you do that, that's awesome. You now have skinnier legs, but you are malnourished, right? So that's a stress on your body. So it's, yeah, eating that bag of Oreos is a stress on the body. Maybe for 20 minutes it helped your emotional stress, but you still got to work to balancing all these stresses out. To that end, what is the first step you take? And that does come back to breathing. Scientifically, it comes back to catching your breath. Getting out of an adrenaline mode or that cortisol mode, those stress hormones that really aren't in your body for very long. They're there to save our life, fight or flight, right? There to get us moving, right? Either put up our dukes and win or get out, right? Those flashes of adrenaline are not designed to stay in our body for long. And when they do, that's stressful on our system. So much so that Americans have so many stress-related illnesses because of the over-adrenalization. That which is designed to save our life is killing us.
Yeah, I see that a lot in my practice with clients. I will say I've noticed a trend of younger women, 30s, 40s, and even 20s, that are so demanding of their bodies physically. They're in the gym. They're not athletes. They're not some of the type of exceptional athletes that you work with, but they are more active than the general population, and they are going very, very hard on the high intensity interval training, on the CrossFits, on these really high impact exercises, and not balancing them with more restorative practices or gentle practices like yoga and maybe Pilates. And when I test their micronutrients, I notice all of these, there's a pattern. There are certain nutrients that you can look at that are depleted very quickly when you do that type of activity, unless you continue to nourish yourself or balance that with gentler practices. And they are the population that are coming in to see me to change their body composition, to get more leaner, to get rid of this layer of adipose tissue or fat that is visibly there. If they, they'll pull up their shirt and show me their abs, and it's
tactile. I pinch it, right?
Yeah, and it's because of this cortisol response and these other hormones that are fat storage hormones that, until we learn as a culture, as a society, to kind of chill out, breathe.
Well, balance, Well, and I think there's a piece on that. So, being the old person on the screen today, there was a time. So first of all, there's really old research out there. I mean, we know what our training heart rates are. This came out maybe 50 years ago. Maybe it was 75 because I'm getting that old. But right, so people say, people like to inform me all the time. Clients will come in and go, well, let me explain. I do HIIT training. That's high intensity. I know what it is. And the concept of high intensity interval training is not new. If you were in sports, it was called fartlek. It's been called HIIT training for most of my career. So it's not a new concept. And we know the benefits on your cardiovascular system to do shorter bursts. You're allowed to do shorter bursts because we know 20 to 30 minutes will actually get this done. Heart rate is elevated, then it comes down, still in your training zone, but we know that that's probably the quickest way to condition the heart and the lungs together. Okay, now that is one way of training. And if you do high intensity interval training, you will be very good at doing short bursts. Awesome. Back in my day, everybody, they were like, oh, wait a minute, here's your heart training zones. I want to be in the fat burning zone. Even then, you know, I was probably 25, 30 at the time going, no, no, no. If you stay in this other zone, for shorter, you will burn as much fat, right? But it got this notion. So everybody would say, oh, heart rate's too high, got to stay in the fat burning zone, you know, right? Was doing that. I'm like, that's great. But at some point, somebody's going to be chasing you, or a dog's going to be after, your kid's going to run out into the street, and you're going to have to dart out there, and you're going to be going, sorry, my heart rate got too high. You can't do that for some of this for some of this stuff. Then I was out, you know, lecturing to businesses, and people would say, so you just want me to go out and walk at, you know, at a talkable pace for 20 to 30 minutes every day? And I'd be like, did you hear me say that? I'm telling you, that's what the Surgeon General's recommending for people. It's the State of the Union is so poor. I want you to get out there and bust a gut, for God's sakes. I want you to run till you puke every once in a while. I want you to climb a mountain and go, right? You got to shake it up. So as much as there's the high intensity interval training, and then we need to do some yin work, some breath work, there's a lot of other things in the fitness world we should be doing as well. Yeah. You know, what are you training for? What do you want to be fit for? And how do you adjust the training? And here's news. You don't see an athlete out there who's these Olympians now, my heart bleeds for them. Because why? They have to go through a whole other training cycle. They have to do this for another year. When they were saying, oh, we're just going to push the Olympics 2 months, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work, right? Hard training cycle. They're already working on where their peak is supposed to go. So everybody who's doing the same workouts every month, past 5 years, this is the workout that works for me, you're doing your body a disservice. That's stressful, right? You have to shake it up.
Yeah. So I want to get back to, that was really interesting, but I want to, I like that a lot. Get back to the part where, what you suggest for breathing, where does that tie into all of this?
Yeah. So,
whoops.
I think I might have lost you. There you go.
Yeah.
I think you lost a minute. Yeah. I can speak to it from the science of it all. And I'll do that at the same time. I kind of speak from the yoga side of it. Nobody has, you know, people are like, well, I do Wim Hof breathing. Listen, from the minute you were like pulled out of somebody and smacked, you were breathing, right? So nobody owns breathing, right? We can explain it from different sides of research. So from the yoga standpoint, it's pranayama, which translates to breathwork practices, prana being energy, your life force energy. Most of us know if we were not allowed to breathe, right? If you had COPD, if you had obstructive anything, right? Like your life force is taken away from you. We need air coming in. So I have a tendency to use the word pranayama and breath work interchangeably, because in my circles that works. But let's not do the work of changing how you breathe. The first thing that I think everybody needs to learn from a scientific standpoint is how to get out of the adrenaline at the moment. So I tell people, like, I can't take any stresses out of your life. Or people say, oh, you're going to tell me to do that. I'm going to tell you to do anything, right? If I have that much control over you, that would be awesome. But I'm not going to run around after you, making sure your schedule changes. What you need to do is learn how to stop the adrenaline in the moment. Right. So if you find yourself getting all jacked up because the Starbucks gal didn't, you know, make your coffee right, right? Somebody, you know, inadvertently like took your shopping place parking spot, right? Like all this stuff that makes people out all the time, right? You gotta cut the adrenaline. You can't afford to have any more in your system. So we know from a kind of a physiological standpoint, there's what's called your vagus nerve, and you hear a lot about vagal tone, heart rate variability. There's
I'm just going to shut the door.
Do it. People are always vagal tone. Your vagus nerve is a cranial nerve, one of those 12 pairs of cranial nerves. But instead of this, your brain telling your body what to do, there's this huge nerve that wanders your body. It's a vagabond. It just wanders. The vagal nerve that comes down and it kind of takes a look at your neck. Right? It kind of takes a little look at your heart. It totally looks at what's going on in your diaphragm. It looks to see what's going on. And then it comes down and it splits off and it touches, you know, it comes in, it goes to every organ in your torso. But it only sends these little feelers out on the way down. Like, okay, let me see what's going on. You've got like 4 lanes of highway coming back. So the real job of this vagus nerve is to say, here's what's going on in my body. Now let me inform my brain so my brain knows what to do with that. Okay, so we're looking for, when we talk about vagal tone or vagus nerve work, we know that if we can, it's called activating the vagus nerve, you get that parasympathetic response, that relax and digest mode, right? So when we get that system activated, it's going to cut the adrenaline. It's cutting off the effects of the stress on your body. Okay, we know in training, with training, that you're able to do that in about 3 breaths, right? With training, you're able to do that in 3 breaths. That is why we call it breath work, right? It's not like, well, you said I got better in 3 breaths. Yeah, these are hands, not wands, people. This is not a magic. You're better, right? It is breath work. It's a breath practice. So the first practice that I have to get everybody to do is just find this new breath. So when we teach from a physiological standpoint, it's in through your nose and out through your mouth. And the practice is, pretend you're blowing out through a straw. Not like this, right? But gentle little straw. And that we know that with training, that's kind of the easiest way to get that vagus nerve to activated vagus nerve relaxation response. There are 3 other of those cranial nerves that are also parasympathetic nerves. So if you want to make that process work a little bit better, it's what we call your oculomotor nerve. So it would be a gentle gaze. I have told everybody, get mirrors if you want, or you can just put on, you know, FaceTime somebody, FaceTime yourself. You get to look at yourself. Like wherever you have a phone or an iPad, you can watch yourself. So it's that gentle gaze, or just eyes closed, but not squinting, not staring at anything. So it's relaxed eyes. Your facial nerve. So it's a relaxed face. However, we know that there's messages that come from the heart back to the brain. So there's some science that says, unless you've got this kind of heartfelt intention of calmness, maybe a little bit of joy, contentedness, sometimes that brings even the slightest, maybe nobody notices I'm smiling, but yeah, I kind of hint. So it's very little work on your face. Glossopharyngeal nerve is the kind of the neck and the throat. So jaw not clenched, tongue relaxed, just clear air going through your throat. If you can access 3 of those together, just calm gaze, relaxed face, clear throat, kind of open heart, right? And then in through your nose, out through. You can access that vagus nerve response, relaxation, in about 3 breaths. Now, sometimes that's taking longer. I've been saying to people, and it's funny how many people have contacted me, because for the last 30 years I've been saying to people, oh no, the next time you're at a red light, here's what I need you to do. You've got this breath. And so they're called your red light exercises, your grocery store exercises. And people are like, I'm totally doing all those now. Like standing in a bank line, oh, okay, here's my exercise. So it's a red light exercise. It's coffee's in the microwave or whatever, you know, I'm waiting through. It's 20 seconds of it. More active, more often on that practice. In yoga, it's Shitali breathing, and it's that same relaxation response, but you're physically blowing out through a straw. Yogis that I work with often practice that. I think the science behind it is we now know that with the relaxed facial muscles, you might get to that quicker. However, feeling the cool air is also, you know, if you're a kind of a kinesthetic person, having that activity of rolling your tongue and then feeling the difference is a nice change.
Yeah. So for people who have never done any sort of breath work, they've never taken a class, your average Joe who's just got a lot of stress right now, it's different if you're experiencing a really big stressor where your cortisol's crazy and you have to, at that point, I think the work is just getting to the point mentally where you're like, okay, let me remove myself from this situation so that I can breathe.
Yeah.
But for the other situations where it's not so active and it's just sort of generalized stress, you're saying that the best starting point is to just relax the facial muscles, maybe drop the shoulders out of your ears, and then focus on that in through the nose, out through the straw type of breathing.
Yeah. So an interesting point to that is that is a breath practice. It is also a meditative practice. So you've heard of runners, people, yeah, and we get this in the yoga world all the time. Somebody comes into class, why are you here? My doctor said I should do yoga. Really? What type of yoga did he tell you to do? He didn't say. Why don't you tell me what you're being treated for? High cholesterol, high blood pressure. Yeah. He didn't mean go to hot
Power
hour or something like that. Yeah, you need to get in the other room and we need to do something that's actually going to help that. Well, he didn't know that. It's because he doesn't know yoga, right? Like, or she didn't know yoga. So what like tell us, or people come to me and say, can you tell me where I'm supposed to start? My doctor told me told me I needed this. Do you want to tell me what you're being treated for? What doctor? It was my shrink. Yes. Now you're going to come and do this right now. Like this is like, we know where to put you based on that. So a lot of people have wanted to do, they've been told, geez, I've got history of Alzheimer's. I've got all these, different things in my gene pool, right? We know epigenetics says you got a gene pool, you get to decide how some of these things are expressed. So what is the best to do? And it really comes down to having some form of meditative practice. Breath in itself is a meditative practice. Where I was originally going with that is, and I'll stop bringing my hands up, ask somebody who runs, why do you run? It's relaxing. Geez, I've done a lot of sporting events. Running's not my thing. It's a means to an end. I've used it a lot in my life, but it's not my favorite activity. You told me to run right now, it would be very stress inducing, right? So there is, though, for those who like rhythmic activity, there's that footfall, bump, 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 bump. There's that rhythmic nature to it. It's kind of hypnotic. It's a flow state. You can get that sitting in a chair and doing the breath work. Like a mantra, you want words. It becomes in, out, in, out. So are you doing breath work or are you meditating? Sure. I don't know. Right. What do you want? Well, I'm supposed to meditate. Start there.
Yeah.
Right. It's, people say, well, I would like to. Great. We can put all this stuff together. Now from there, there's, from like the traditions of yoga, there's a lot of different breath works. You want to get stronger core, you want to be, powerful thing, we can work your breath. You want to be better in sports, we're going to change the way that you breathe when you play the sport. I also do a form of breath work. We call it breath work meditation. We call it healing breath work meditation. It's very holistic form of breath work where we're quieting the intellect. Right? Your brain likes to run the show. And the question I would always ask is, what would happen if you could turn that guy off a little bit? And I don't want you to go brain dead. We're not trying to shut the brain off. We're just saying, what if you didn't get to go, oh, I should have a tuna fish sandwich right now. Maybe I should get up. What if you could just quiet that part? If you do a rhythmic practice, whether that's a run or a swim or a workout or a breathing, your brain, the intellect gets tasked. And it will stay occupied. It likes
to have things to do.
Have things to do. So you've given it a very important job. Just go this breath. Just follow the pattern. And when it goes, tuna fish sandwich for lunch, you go, or you can breathe, and you get back to the
back.
Where there is a language to the body. Your body does something different when it's emotional. Have you ever broken into laugh because something was funny? Of course you have, right? Have you ever cried because you turned on the Hallmark station and you're like, what? That's not even sad. It's all right. Your body just needed to cry, right? Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes you're like, ugh, right? There's things happen when you're having an emotional response. What if you just got to lie there, shut the brain off, and nobody said, boys don't cry. Oh, come on, buck up. You're not gonna, are you laughing? Do you always have to be like, what if those messages weren't in your head anymore? You were allowed to have some spiritual experience without somebody going, not allowed, right? What if you wanted to have some, just some act of creative genius, but you can't find your muse? Well, what if you got that thing saying, you can't find your muse, right? Put that to sleep and let something else talk in your body.
Yeah.
So in the biz, we know it as an altered state of consciousness, a non-normal state of consciousness. And it's,
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of two places that I wanted to go before we ended this. I wanted to make sure we hit two things. One was for people who are a little bit more familiar with pranayama, so mostly yogis, but people who are in that sort of circle of alternative methods and breathing and whatnot. Can you sort of skim the surface of what that means when you say altered state? Because there are a lot of people who, and you've said it before, come to those classes for the altered state and then stay for the healing.
Right, that's my line.
But there are a lot of people who hear altered state and think, that's terrifying. I don't want anything to do with that. It sounds like I'm on some sort of psycho substance.
Well, it does.
And it sort of feels like that. And
like that. It does do that. And the answer is, yeah, the first time is an experience, right? And I work with a group that's in drug and alcohol rehab. It's an inpatient. And I always ask that, is there anybody here who likes an altered state? And they all go, not into this mess, lady. I'm like, great. I'm going to show you how to get in an altered state without any drugs or alcohol. And it's by the use of air.
Wait, and I want to interrupt that too. Can you say why anybody would want to be in that? Why, like, what's the point of entering that sort of space?
So as a therapist, there is a therapeutic benefit to it, and it is a tool used in therapy. So I do some work with a psychotherapist where we're both in the room at the same time, and I'm monitoring the somatics, what's going on in their body. I'm saying to her, no, this is what's going on in the people's, because I'm reading their body language. I'm doing my piece while she's kind of handling the psycho-emotional piece, right? So we're both working together. So there is a great therapeutic tool to it all. That said, you don't need to be a therapist to do it. And if you're deciding, if you're coming to breath work, you're always in charge. Where I'm not gonna, people say, oh, I don't want to be hypnotized because what if happens? It doesn't work. You're not going to do something that you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. So there's that, and I have to say to the person, yeah, I'm going to watch you. So you can get out of any of this when you want to get out of it. You just need to change your breathing pattern. You just need to open your eyes. You just need to stop. But so there is this altered state of consciousness. And again, if you don't know what that means, you think that I'm going to hit you on the head and render you unconscious. You think I'm going to slip you a Mickey or something. And I'm like, that's not what's going to happen. You're going. And then you're right, something will happen. So sometimes there is a physiological response. Mm-hmm. We know that they tend to cramp up. We know that their faces get a little frozen. That happens maybe 30% of the time. So when the science world likes to say, well, this is because your alkalinity state and all this. And you're like, well, why does it happen to everybody? It doesn't happen to everybody. And when it happens to people, after they practice it a few times, it doesn't happen to them anymore. So are we not altering their blood? Yeah. Right? So it is. Yeah, it is an altered state of consciousness. It was studied for psych purposes back when they were doing LSD studies, right? So we don't use LSD in psych circles. They didn't come up with any great science on the breath at the time. There's a lot of psych people who use breath work because it's, right? You finish and, you breathe and you're back to normal.
And I want to be clear too, the type that we're talking about, because I see people are just joining in, the type of breath work or pranayama that we're talking about right now is not what Lisa was talking about before. Just the stress reducing, simple breathing techniques, those are different. This is an intense class that some people go.
Very specific form. It's a specific breathing pattern. I have been trained a couple of ways. So I watch what's going on and then I say, okay, here's what we might do today. Here's the breathing pattern that I think is the best. When I'm working with people individually or I have a group in a room, I can see who changes out of that pattern. If it's not working on their behalf, I'll have them switch. But sometimes your body knows what it's going to breathe, right? Sometimes you have to go, okay, that's not hurting you. I'm going to let you go on with that. But if you want to draw it back in to go to that place, be curious about what your body's feeling. What do you find there?
Right.
And You say, oh my God, I was so sad coming in, or boy, I got this and I cried for 20 minutes. Well, I just feel lighter now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Yep. Come for the altered state, stay for the healing properties.
Mm-hmm.
It's what people report.
Right. Yeah. It's super interesting. So tell us a little bit about what you offer in the realm of breath work, what you offer outside of that. So I don't think I mentioned your other disciplines. So you do massage, you're an athletic trainer. I think that's kind of made itself known through our conversation. But what sort of breathing practices do you offer?
Yeah, so like I was saying, my shtick is kind of the one-liner is I take a multidisciplinary approach to helping people perform their best. Now, I've been saying that since 1990 or 85 or something like that, and people say, yeah, but what does that mean? Because they want to say, well, aren't you a massage therapist? Aren't you an aerobics instructor? Aren't you a yogi? Yes, but when somebody comes into the room, I have to figure out what language works best for you. So in my best moments, you tell me what's going on, I'm going to use whatever tools that I have that I think you understand, right? Like it's a little bit of so right now in this time of sheltering, in this time of COVID, where everybody is completely stressed, I have had to take care of myself, right, as well as give offerings. So part of what I needed to do is differentiate the weekends from the weekdays, right? I don't do any work. I'm going to a wedding this weekend. Isn't that awesome? They are putting it on Facebook Live.
Oh, okay.
So I'm attending a wedding tomorrow, which is great. But I don't do any work on them. But Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's a 15 to 20 minute check-in. And it's not so you can tell me about your day. It's so you can stop and breathe. So, I've been getting up at 6:30 or 7, but it's a time just at 9 o'clock, stop and breathe. Mm-hmm. I come back at 7 and do, again, quiet the breathing, and then do either a restorative yoga posture or two, maybe some gentle movement, maybe yin, and that's all explained because a lot of it's the same. You get to pick what position you're in. I'll be live at 7 this evening, and on Friday I make it, instead of 15, 20 minutes, it's definitely a half an hour, generally a more restorative posture and some sound. So I have bowls and chimes, whatever is going to work. So if you go onto either my website, liftperformanceenhancement.com, I'm Lisa Lift on Instagram. All of that's posted there. It'll take you to a link in my bio. The 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. are my offerings to anybody who wants to come in. Those are through Zoom. That may change. We're all like, this is uncharted territory for us. So there may be a platform that works better. So just, keep paying attention and it will be on there. The Thursday night altered state breathing, I have, that is $20 or whatever you can pay. So, for every person that wants to come and can't afford it, there's somebody who kind of slips in some extra. So, it's that line that a lot of us are using now, whatever you can pay, put it on social media. If you can't, like a shout out on your own pages or an act of kindness to someone else. Really, that's kind of the best we can do for each other. Mm-hmm. So those are the offerings we have, that are group offerings, every day, 9 and 7, and then right now it's 5:30 on Thursdays evening, and that's a 60 to 75 minute class.
Okay. And then when we're not, sorry.
Go ahead.
When we are not stuck at home, normal business operations, what else can people come and see you for?
I'm probably best for my multidisciplinary, what do you need? So I'm now actually, there's been a lot of injuries. So I'm doing shoulder rehab. Somebody else has plantar fasciitis. So I'm finding, I really can do injury evaluations. Who really needs to go to the hospital, right?
Yeah, of course.
Got hit the head with something. Let me evaluate that. Yeah, you need to get to the hospital. But I've done a lot of, just short-term training with people. So I do that in the office. A lot of people come because they want a massage. And my first thing to them is, do you want a massage or do you want me to try to get you out of pain? Mm-hmm. People go, what? Because I have a different background. Let me touch that for a few minutes, but you need to get that gluten gear. You really, So yeah, and some people go, no, I really just want a massage. That's cool. If you know what you want, it may not get you out of pain, but it doesn't matter. Some people are tired of doing the work and they just want to have something passive done, right? We want to have the massage. I'll do the other stuff another time. So that's cool. So yeah, whether it's sports training, whether it's lifestyle stuff, I do kind of wellness, health coaching. How do you find that balance again? So that's, you know, kind of like nutrition counseling. You might have an hour session with somebody up front, and I do 15-minute, 30-minute check-ins as people need them, giving them the tools to keep track.
Yeah.
So some of the online stuff going though, once this is over.
And then do you have some time to maybe do like a very short breathing exercise with us?
Yeah, let's not do altered state.
Let's
not do altered state. So go ahead and close your eyes and stop drinking out of that. Yeah, just take a nice deep breath. Make sure you can breathe and just give yourself a little exhale, just like a little sigh. It's not right, you don't want that. Do a couple of those in through your nose and out with a kind of gentle sigh. And eyes closed isn't available for everybody. So if you are not comfortable with your eyes closed, you can open them, but it's the reminder that it's a gentle gaze. So it's either a gentle gaze at the back of your eyelids or that gaze at just one point off in a distance. And at some point with that gentle gaze, that one point actually goes a little out of focus. Oculomotor nerve relaxing and telling the brain, relaxed. Can you relax your facial muscles? So that's no furrow of the brow, no pursed lips. And then find that sensation, that heartfelt sense of a peaceful moment in your life. It might be Sunday morning in your favorite chair before the kids are up, right? You just get to have one sip of coffee and one page of the newspaper. It might be on the front of your boat, it might be sitting on the beach. Pick that moment and try to put yourself right there. Let your whole body remember that. And then throat and neck relaxed. When you're ready, into the nose and out through a straw. Still very gentle mouth movement there. In through the nose as you are ready. Out through a straw. The air will probably feel cooler as you do that. A little more yin, as we say, that cool, calming, gentle breeze. The air is allowed to escape your body without much effort, so it's not a forced blowing bubbles through a straw, right? Just gently. And as there's that little bit of restriction of the air coming out, it actually allows the exhale to become slower. And in time, with practice, you'll find that the exhale, your exhale, is about twice as long as an inhale. So look at that now. Inhale as you're ready. And exhale, don't force it, don't count it. Just notice. You'll actually find at the end of an exhale, which seems to go on and on and on at times, there's a little bit of space where you're neither inhaling or exhaling. That's fine. And so this is not a breath work. This is allowing your body and inviting your body to come back to its natural state. All that blood that was put in your arms to fight, all that blood that was sent to your legs to run, is now invited back to the middle of your body, right? For digestion, immune function. So if you have time to carry that practice on, you can keep doing it. Jen and I will talk maybe, but, and that practice can be done not anywhere. You really don't want to close your eyes and do that at a red light, but focus on the red light. Be done there. Kids getting the better of you. Want to smack somebody. And again, if you practice it, your body responds to it. Right? It becomes second nature.
Yeah, and it doesn't take as long to get there.
Not at all. So I would say you're better off practicing that, for, 2-3 minutes, 5 a day, right? I use sports analogies all the time. It's like hitting a bucket of balls, right? You want to get better at putting, you take a bucket or 2 balls and you go out and putt. You take a bucket of balls or 7 and go to the batting cage, right? Like you're always kind of hitting a bucket of balls, doing some free throws. Let it be your bucket of balls. I'm going to hit a lot of buckets of balls, and after a while you get really, really good at it. Yeah. And your body will really, really good at this is relaxation response faster.
Yeah, I feel relaxed already.
Really the sound of my voice. No.
It's a combination.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to scroll through, see if anyone wrote any questions. Or if you have questions now and you're still with us, if you want to type them in, questions for Lisa, questions about breathing, about what she offers. Anything. Any questions in general. So Lisa and I have done a few courses together. We had core healing, which was all the 7 systems of health, or from a yogic perspective, chakras. You're welcome.
This is so fun.
I know. I can see my camera sideways. And maybe there's time and space somewhere down the line to run that again. Maybe do it a little differently.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the last few days, where definitely people are gonna, when this is over, people are gonna get back on track. And that's 10-week check-in once a week, some homework, gives you something to do every day, and then meet once a week. Yeah. But very systematically to go back, and it's kind and gentler. It's not boot camp. It's not us telling you what to do. Note of what's going on and making some subtle changes. So yeah, I think you should expect to see it again, right?
Yeah. I've been thinking the same thing too. Yep. So that's good to know. We did a piece together in, was it February, Healing the Hungry Heart, where we talked about a lot of heart healthy foods and heart chakra. I don't know what's going on with my light over here. And then we did another one. What was? Oh, the gut one. So everybody's favorite topic, gut health. So
gut health, right? A lot of press for health. Thank God. How long have you been trying to get people's guts healthy? And again, it's vagus nerve work. So how long? We're trying to bring the blood back for digestion and immune function. So it's got a lot of press right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not seeing any questions come in, but is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Lisa?
Oh, no. Oh, no. No. I'll go back to the quiet of my house and talk to myself. No.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for enlightening us on how to breathe appropriately and why it matters, and for spending almost a whole hour of your day with us. I appreciate it, and I think people do too.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Good seeing you, Jen.
You too. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.